I'm here today with Ian Morgan from MBS Accountants. Say hello, Ian.
Hi there.
Hello, Ian. And I can't wait to get started. Ian's going to be sharing how he's making more money, doing less work and working less hours in his practice. Ian shared his 5-step process in the Accountants Mastermind community over Christmas, and I won't say caused a bit of a stir, but prompted lots of questions. And he has very kindly agreed to come along today to answer any questions that we've got in order to inspire, challenge, and support us and our practices to be the very best we want to be. Welcome to this webinar with Ian Morgan from MBS Accountants. And Ian is going to be sharing and talking around his 5 steps, or the 5 steps that he took in order to change his practice to earn more money whilst working less hours and with fewer clients. And for those of you that are on the call from the Accountants Mastermind community on Facebook, you might remember that Ian shared this 5-step process over Christmas in response to a question that one of the members asked, and he has gladly come along this morning to share those 5 steps in more detail and obviously answer any questions that you've got as we go through. So as always, I believe the value of these events are the questions that you ask. So if you look at your screen to the right hand side of the raised hand feature, you should see a little box that says Q&A on it. If you click that Q&A box, you can ask a question of Ian, and Ian's a bit like me. He likes stupid questions. So if you think you've got a question that's stupid, please feel free to ask the stupid questions, because generally speaking, they're easier to answer than the hard ones. So please feel free to ask any questions and interrogate Ian as you like. And then to the left-hand side of the raised hand, you'll find the chat button. So if you've got any comments, you want to say thank you to Ian, how wonderful he is, then post them in the chat box. And if anything else comes up whilst we go through, then we'll pop them in the chat box as well. So without further ado, if I can see you, Ian, this is the point where we cross fingers and hope that Ian's, here he comes. Oh, he's gone again. Ian appears. There you go. I was going to say he was there literally 3 minutes ago. So brilliant. Ian. And firstly, let me start, Ian, by saying a massive thank you for coming along and sharing what I know you believe are pretty simple concepts and things that you have done in order to improve your practice. It is very much appreciated that you'll come along and share like this. So in order to give us a bit of background, Ian, can you just share for perhaps a minute, 2 minutes, what you are doing, what your practice is like, where you're based, and those sort of things?
Yeah, so firstly, I'd like to thank you, Simon, for having me on, and thank you to the community as also for participating and making sure that there's going to be hopefully lots of questions moving forward. By us, so I would describe ourselves as a small sort of accounting practice based in Gloucestershire. We've got clients all throughout the UK. The things that I think that we're really doing these days is that we're focusing on working for the client and how much we can maximize what we're doing for them, as opposed to being this sort of agent type concept, if you like, for the government, where we're just helping facilitate the filing of tax returns and that sort of approach. So this is much more about, for us, it's about adding value to clients, making sure that they are getting what they feel is the true value out of us, and how we can really sort of help them in terms of the goals that they want to be achieving, so they can focus on that and move in the right direction. We're a team of 8, including the 2 directors. So we're not a huge, large practice, but most of our work is centered around keeping up to date with clients. So making sure that we've got up to date financial information, because that's then what can trigger all of the advice and guidance that we can give from there.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. And I know we're going to touch on that briefly. Depending on what sort of questions we ask or get asked, then we're going to touch on that perhaps more fully. But we will see as the next hour progresses. And Jeff, good morning, Jeff. I see you just popped in the chat box. So the 5-step process to whet your appetite for the things we're going to talk about. Step 1 is all about mindset. Step 2 is about offloading. We'll just say customers at this stage, or clients at this stage, as opposed to be any more derogatory than that. About doubling the prices is step 3. So increasing prices. Step 4 is introducing an ideal client profile or an ideal client avatar. And then step 5 is offloading customers again, and again, shrinking down and reducing the customers. So they're the steps that we're going to go through and have a look at. And as I say, as we go through, if you've got any questions, then just pop them in the Q&A and I will gladly ask them of Ian for you. So first step then, Ian, mindset. So what caused the shift? What happened in order for you to change the way that you was working?
So there were several things. I think mostly it was because I found I was becoming a busy fool. We had a situation where we recruited 2 staff members in a short period of time and both didn't work out. And it comes to the point then where I ended up working ridiculous 70, 80-hour weeks for I don't know, 6, 7 weeks. And I was just like, is this what we've set up for? Is this the whole point of what we were doing? And clearly, no, it wasn't. So how am I going to think differently and change things to make sure that that's not going to be the case going forward? I didn't feel we're bad people, but maybe we were. And how are we going to, how are we going to sort of question that and look at it from another angle so we can just go, is everything that we're doing the right things of what we should be doing, or is there another way to do this? And that doesn't need to come from what anybody else is doing at all. Just literally look at it from, try and put ourselves as much as we can in that client's shoes, and not even necessarily the clients we'd attracted, because that didn't end up being the clients that we wanted in the future. So try and put us into the mindset of the clients that we do want and go, what are they really looking for? Not what are they telling us they're looking for, what do they really want? And start to think like them as much as possible.
Right. So you was at that point, you was doing 60, 70-hour weeks, basically. Was there a point, or can you remember a point that where you said, right, that's it? I've had enough. Was it 9:30 on a Friday night when you was being bombarded by Facebook messages, or was it just a gradual getting fed up of being fed up?
No, so it was the second recruit we had. So we had this element where we felt because there were elements in my earlier career where I didn't feel I was given opportunities to switch careers into accounting. I felt like we could pay that back to certain people. And we've done that this was the second occasion. We went away on holiday for 3 weeks, came back, and that member of staff just didn't turn up. They were gone. And after about a week's worth of trying to get hold of them, managed to find out what was going on. They were just like, it's just not for them. That change of career, that's it. It's not going to work out. And it was at that point of just, actually, have we just got this completely wrong? We've gone away and enjoyed ourselves, not really knowing this is happening, and then just come back to an absolute mess and chaos. And what was the point? What were you trying to achieve?
And so it was at that point when you made the decision. And if we just explore the mindset a little bit, Ian, because I think it might help some other people. How did you feel at that point?
I felt out of control, and felt like I felt incompetent, like I didn't know what I was trying to achieve, where I was going, a lack of direction. The typical normal things, you start questioning yourself in terms of your own ability, in terms of accountancy as well. Do I not understand what clients value and what they're really looking for? Do we not understand people and how to manage people? Everything that's completely irrational at that time, but all of those thoughts all sort of accumulate together. And it was just like, just that sort of condense all of that and just go, let's let them have that moment, if you like, but now we need to bring ourselves back around to thinking rationally and just go, okay, the only way we can really rationally do this is really explore all of those options. Am I competent and capable of being an accountant? Am I competent and capable of managing people? And literally just go through each step and just work it all out and try and view it outside of the situation, without any type of ego or anything from my own perspective, just literally logically assess the whole situation.
And just to dig a little bit further, did you know at that point, or was there still an element of uncertainty? So sometimes, in my experience, I get fed up. Let's just say fed up is a polite way of doing. And then, so that's a Friday night, and I'm stressed and I'm fed up with where it is. But by the time Monday morning comes around and I've eaten myself to death and drank too much red wine and all the rest of it, it doesn't seem quite as bad as what it did do on Friday. And then I know on occasions I've fooled myself into thinking, well, it's not as bad as what I thought it was on Friday. So was that your experience, or was it just no, it's definitely going to change Monday morning, 9 o'clock, or whatever time it is that you start, I'm going for it?
Yeah, I think there was an element of we knew that something had to happen, so we needed that additional staff member, so we had to recruit. So therefore, there was a catalyst, if you like, because we had to go out and find somebody. So therefore, what were we going to go and look for? And therefore something had to change. So we had to go, right, rather than just willy-nilly going out there and just go, right, here's an advert, we just want an accountant, what we're really looking for. And then also was to go and get some outside help. So we appointed a business coach at that point, just to come in and view it and just give this outside perspective and basically just attack the whole business. So it was a case of almost that felt worse before we felt better. But in some respects, that was a good thing, because it was, don't do that exercise where you almost convince yourself that there aren't any issues and it'll all be great. It was somebody was going to come in and attack every little thing that we were doing and go, but why like that? Or why not like this? And that was, we'll come on to it later, but that was one of the catalysts behind doubling prices as well.
Brilliant. And that's a really important point there. I think that you share that sometimes, it's the old saying about having to break eggs to get to scratch. So sometimes it has to get worse, the loser trap, before it gets better. And let's just dig a little bit into the coach if we can. So obviously you made a decision there to recruit a certain person or work with a certain person. What did you have? What things were you looking for, and why did you choose to work with that person, do you think?
To be honest, I don't really know what I was looking for. I just knew that I felt like I didn't have the answers. So therefore, we'd done what we could do internally in our little bubble, and something was then causing us to be unhappy with that. So we needed to go and explore what we could do beyond that. So basically, it felt like, had I reached the limits of my own capabilities at that moment in time and needed to then learn something new to move to that next level. What we ended up doing was actually they specialized a lot in how to price in terms of the values and outcomes of what you're delivering. And so there become a lot of clarity for us then, again, towards that ideal client scenario. So another thing that comes back up later, but how to really identify quite what we were going to be delivering and who were we aiming at, what were we trying to deliver. But also then they were just picking little bits from their own experience with their own accountant, just to go, well, yeah, but I have these frustrations, and how do you handle this, and what do you do with that? And just simple things like we just said, one of my big distractions at that time were just questions that get fired at us. And his solution at that point was, why not just have an online calendar system with 15-minute phone call slots where people can just book in, and therefore you're not distracted. If somebody tries to speak to you outside of those times, you direct them towards the calendar. I'm just like, what a simple answer to something that was a massive stress point. And it was that then that started to accelerate that process and started to go, actually, we don't need to think like this like accountants. We need to think like this like a business.
Yeah, so it's remarkable. Whenever you're working with somebody, you just literally, when you talked about the loser trap a minute ago, my brain went, oh, I know exactly where I know that's what I'm at. And all of a sudden I can then forgive myself because I'm going through that instead of beating myself up that it's not working. So even the really simplest conversations, it's like, so thank you for that. Thank you for that gift, Ian. Craig's asked, do you mind sharing the name of the coach?
Yeah, so at that point, the coach we worked with was a guy called Robin Waite. And if you want an insight into delivery of how that, he's got a great book called Take Your Shot, which is about how to actually package up something in terms of outcomes, as opposed to, somebody doesn't come to us wanting to buy a tax return, they want to buy a peace of mind, for example. So you can sell peace of mind for a lot more than what you can sell a tax return. It's a great book and it takes you to a great journey. It's actually much more story-like. I'd certainly recommend reading it and reaching out to him if you feel you can help.
Brilliant. What? Just repeat his name again.
Robin Waite, Waite.
Robin Waite, and Take Your Shot was the Mark will disappear off on Amazon and he'll find that book. So it'll appear, I think, in a minute in the chat box. So thank you for that. So let's move on then to offloading customers or clients or old clients. And that's very often it's a scary thing for lots of practitioners. First, so why was that the next thing that you did?
So the big thing of what we did with the business coach was to work out where was my time going. There was clearly a big drag on my time and what was causing it. And what we started to do was look at what was the best way of identifying it was based on clients. So start to rank clients and almost put them in a case of going, right, these are the ones who are a problem because they suck time, but for the wrong reasons. And then almost grading them. So we ended up with sort of an A through to D, A being like, we love working with these people. The B's being, we see potential. And then the C's and D's at one point were one batch, but they sort of separated into, these are just awful and they need to go now because they are such a drag on the mindset that we've got in moving forward, the time that we need, and everything else. And the C's were those that were just like, okay, we've got some time and we can package those up and they can be sold. So that was sort of the initial process that we ended up with to know, I guess, some clarity of the way forward. It was a big mindset release just to go, okay, we haven't just got a set of clients, we've actually got 4 sets of clients, and they're all delivering different types of value to the practice.
Thank you. And I think you might have hinted at it then, but what did you do with those C's and D's? Did you sell them? Did you just dump them? Did you overprice them or outprice them, or whatever technical term people use to get people to leave?
Yeah. So what we did then versus what we do now, which I won't go into too much what we do now because that'll come in the offloading the second one at the end. But what we did then was the D's were just like, actually, these are such a drag for whatever reason. They constantly blaming people or other people or us, or it was constantly this blame sort of approach. There was constantly excuses why things weren't sorted. So it was a question of they just need to go. So we just approached them and just went, look, we don't think this is the right fit. They're aware because they're not happy with what's happening. I'd probably argue undeservedly unhappy. They were causing that problem, but actually at the same point it was quite fine if they can move those on. So it was just a quick conversation just to go, we don't fit. We've got some recommendations of people you can move on to. And we can make introductions, but if not, that's fine. The ones who were then sold, we worked out the right approach, found and interviewed a number of local practices, found somebody that we found was a good fit for those clients, which was a challenge because naturally we want to find accountants like us, but because we knew that these were not good fit for us, therefore they're not going to be fit for these other people who are like us. We needed to find somebody where we go, okay, it might work for them, but that's not how we would do it. They're the ones who are potentially the right fit for these clients to move to. And then they were sold off to them. And they all moved, I think it was on the 1st of February after the January deadline in 2018. Yeah, 2018.
Okay. So back at that point, it was a question of getting rid of them, not re-educating them or trying to improve them. So you'd made your decision that they was going. It was just a conversation basically as to how they was going. How did the customers feel about that? How did the clients feel about that? Because very often I know people are nervous that they're going to get shouted at and told that they are the worst person in the world and things like that.
No, so I don't know how many we offloaded as the D's who we just moved on, because that was just more of we reacted as we found, you know what, they've been on our radar, the team are feeling like they're a pain, so let's move those away. So I'm not sure how many of those were, but we didn't really get any resistance from them because they were feeling like they weren't happy with what we were doing, and we were also feeling unhappy with them as well. So it was sort of a mutual agreement. We sold, I think off the top of my head, I think we sold 45, 50 clients. 2 had a moan. One was basically, how dare you choose who my new accountant is going to be? I'll go and sort myself. And another one was just like, actually, the location doesn't work for us. As the crow flies, it was only like a 5-mile distance, but we've got the River Severn in the way. So actually it was a good hour round trip to get to where the other practice were. So a logical type decision, but that was it. Nobody said anything. And actually we still keep in touch with that practice. And it was almost been a catalyst for those people to be really educated. They were open to that new way of working that was going to happen, and they've become good clients for them.
Excellent, thank you. And I've got a couple of questions from Praddy. Two questions. When you decided to disengage with clients, did you worry about your cash flow or losing income?
Yeah, naturally, the accountant in me. But my challenge at that point was stop thinking like an accountant and think like a business owner. So as long as the cash flow was fine in that short-term interim period, what opportunities were we then opening up to create that we could grow into? And actually, roughly, off the top of my head, those clients was about £40,000 worth of gross recurring fees. And without having to recruit more people, we would replace them with over £100,000 worth of fees. So it did happen, and fairly quickly.
Yeah. So at any point, and because I've asked this question numerous times now, and I'm hoping on camera. So at any point, did you notice that you'd lost those customers?
No.
That's not.
The notice that we got was, where's all this time come from? And the level of happiness within everybody in the practice and the team and everything, it was just like, you were not getting these people who are moaning us because the VAT return hasn't filed, and you go, actually, we've been asking for your information for months and months, to get this information sorted, to get up to date, and they've just ignored it, and now all of a sudden we're to blame.
Yeah.
And you've got rid of those people, they're gone, and the people who are there enjoy what we're doing and they're thankful for what we're doing. So yeah, the notice was positive.
Yeah, and I've asked that question, as I say, numerous times, and everybody goes, "Well, yeah, I was a bit nervous when I let them go, but by the end of the financial year, I didn't even know that they'd gone, other than a time saving, and the team were happy, and all the rest of it." So we'll take that as as a bullet dodge, so to speak.
Yeah.
And were you worried when you offloaded these clients that they would lead bad reviews or bad feedback online, which would affect your reputation in the market?
No, I was more worried that by keeping them, that was the risk that we got, because they didn't feel we were delivering what they wanted, even though they probably didn't know what they wanted. There was just this misalignment, if you like, between them, that they were never going to be happy. So by continuing to try and serve them, I felt that was a bigger risk that it's getting bad reviews than moving them to somewhere where they could probably be happy.
Brilliant. That's a really good mind shift about the consequences of doing exactly the same thing and getting the same outcome, or two different things and getting exactly the same outcome. So thank you. Craig's asked, client classification. How did you grade your customers A to C? And obviously we don't need the ins and outs of that, but what sort of things did you include?
So A became a lot easier once we identified our ideal client avatar, which we'll see what comes to later. But it was more of the case at the moment, at that stage, it was, do we enjoy working with them? And do they enjoy working with us, and therefore usually pay us quite well for what they're doing, or what we're doing for them. The Bs were just, we quite like working with them, but maybe they're not quite right in terms of the services that they're buying. So, but we can see potential, because we can see that they're moving in that right direction. The Cs, they were more just a case of, okay, they don't fit those two profiles, and they're not causing us massive headaches in terms of the headaches were based around people, basically. If the person behind the business was a bit of an idiot, is the best way of putting it, I think, that they became a D, but if they weren't, they pushed themselves up to a C so they could be sold.
Brilliant. Thank you. So whilst we're talking about increasing prices, which is step 3, so we doubled the prices, and just explain that process, because again, it's a common conversation that I have, and touch wood, I'm hoping that you're going to tell me you made more money, so some left potentially, but you still made more money, blah 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 blah. So just share that process for me, Ian.
Yeah, so the process was actually, it was a good switch. We switched into Go Proposal at that point because we found we had an inconsistent pricing method. You could easily have at that point 2 people who got very similar work, and yet the prices could be wildly different. And this was about creating an approach where we'd have a consistent approach to that pricing, but also in that same effort, making sure that things weren't falling through the gap. So a lot of the doubling was that we were doing things, but we just hadn't got around to charging for them, or hadn't sorted that out. So yeah, people were just getting things for free. So it was now a case of go back to them and re-educating them and just going, look, we're doing all of these services and this is what's in place. So how do we deliver that to make sure that you're getting that level of value? So it's conversations with everybody. It was a long, painful process to go through that and have all those conversations. But I didn't feel like it was something, you can't just send that out as a mass email and just go, oh, by the way, guys, we're worth double what we were before. People weren't going to see that. I was trying to put myself in their shoes and go, if we can have a conversation, they can understand where we're coming from and what we're doing. Those who are the right fit clients will get it and they will come with us. And those who are the wrong ones won't. That overall exercise of those bits of the offloading and the fee doubling and the people who left because they weren't on that journey, we went from about 500 clients to about 300, but we did not reduce our gross recurring fees. I think they were about 20,000 a year higher, but they certainly didn't go down. And yet, obviously, we created so much more time because not having to deal with the communication of those other 200 clients was huge in terms of the savings that brought.
Okay, so just let me just I'll come back to the bit where you said that you spoke to every customer rather than sending them an email or sending them a letter. What was the, if you don't mind, what was the brief conversation, or what was the brief structure of that conversation? Was it, hello, your price is going up, thank you very much, goodbye, or how did you approach that, Ian?
No, it was much more about what are they trying to achieve, where are they trying to go, what are they trying to get to, and what's stopping them, and are we delivering the right services? So it was a bit of listening for signals, but it was also a bit of posing the questions back to them and just being prepared that on some occasions people say, no, I don't feel like you support me. And actually the right answer back to that is not to get defensive, but to go, okay, how do you think we can support you better? And actually that was a signal of an opportunity, not here's a complaint that's coming, and that I need to get defensive on that. It was just to out those bits and just go, actually, let's use this as a feedback exercise. And what surprised me the most was actually people would start off on a bit of a, well, yeah, actually, we don't feel like you're supporting us enough and blah, blah, blah. And actually, you could very much turn that around to somebody then buying more services from you and spending twice of what they had done previously, just because you were prepared to have those difficult conversations and be vulnerable.
Yeah, it's always amazed me, and again, it's a conversation I've had a number of times within Greenstones, is if you sit down with a customer and explain to them why delivering their records on the 6th of the month isn't good from a back, it's like, well, the deadline's the 7th. Yeah, I know, but it doesn't help us or you. It's like, well, I didn't know that. Nobody's ever told me that before. It's like, oh God, why not? It's a wonderful conversation to have. But again, I know lots of accountants are fearful of that conversation. Was you a bit nervous about it? How did you get the confidence to do it, or did you just go straight into it? Was it a refined process, or?
No. So I was challenged by the business coach to do it, because he felt that our pricing for what we were delivering at that time was too cheap, and that therefore we should be increasing the prices. And he challenged me for probably between 6 and 7 months, and I kept sort of saying, yeah, I get it, but then just couldn't get myself over that line to do it. I can't remember what the catalyst was, but there was something then that just caused me just to go, do you know what, let's just do it with one, actually, just to see what happens. And we did that one, and they went through that process of, oh yeah, actually, we don't feel like we don't get enough support on this or that, and blah, blah, blah. And actually we go, oh, well, we do all that. We just haven't had the conversation to realize that you wanted that. And they became, I think they did actually over doubled their fees, but were happy. So they came out of that happier, even though they were paying twice of what they were paying before. And yeah, that was the little thing of just made me realize and go, actually, there isn't really a fear to be had. And there were ones along the way that knocked the confidence because you felt like you're going to have a good conversation, and they go, actually, that's not for me. I just want somebody to file a tax return and off I'll go. Knocks the confidence, that's fine. But it was this thing of stepping back and going, just look at the results though. How many are you speaking to? It's most are staying and most want to be involved with that. And actually, what's the goal? The goal wasn't to keep every client. The goal was to create the time. And if we can create the time and not lose income at the same point, then it's a win-win.
Brilliant. I think that answers your question, VJ, about whether there's any resistance. I remember back when we went through a similar process, I got a little bit cocky. So I was having a number of conversations with people, and it was easy. It was like we was helping each other, and they was understanding us and all the rest of it. And then one morning I sat down with a customer and I explained the process, and she sat there, and all of a sudden she slammed both hands on the desk and stood up and said, I have never been so insulted in all my life, and walked out of the room. And it was like, what have I done? What have I done? But I mean, I'm now going back, as 15 years ago since we did that, and that still sticks in my mind. And it's a reminder that you've got to treat everybody as a human being and look after them, rather than I was going through the process. I was running through the motions and hadn't got that connection. So I think it's safe to say you do occasionally get some fee resistance or some resistance to the fee increases, but predominantly, as long as you're both on the same team working together, there's an understanding there and an acceptance. Yeah,
I think the fee resistance is, for us, it became the signal towards why we had to have an ideal client, because the ones who were signaling that resistance, they didn't really want anything beyond that, what I refer to as the tax agent approach. They just wanted somebody to file a tax return and make sure it was done on time. which is fine, and you can build a successful practice doing that, but was not what we wanted. The whole point of why we had started the business or the practice was to have that right comfort levels for us in terms of the level of income versus the hours that we work to spend with the family. And that had been lost along the way. We just got so busy, I'd lost sight of that, and we were just chasing the income, which wasn't really happening anyway. There were times throughout that where I was thinking I could go and get a job and get paid more. So I've lost sight of the whole point of what we were trying to do. So that was my thing of don't get caught up in it. Try and be external and have a view of where we're trying to get to, and are we doing the right things together?
Thank you. And I've got your question, Jenny, and it's a nice segue over into step 4. So Jenny's talks about, have you changed your service delivery? Were you providing more compliance type services before, and are you now providing more support and advisory? And that's on the basis of step 4 for me, about introducing the new ideal client profile and what it was that you actually wanted to deliver. So how did that change as a result of this process, Ian?
Yeah, so it became quite obvious through doing the repricing and then looking at the ideal clients. There was sort of a running theme. A lot of those, it was still built around compliance. That's the still point. Most people are coming to us because they don't want to have to handle that, and it's an organization type approach. So that was still the main running theme. But the thing was, those people who were coming to us and being those top clients wanted more. They didn't want us just to be that agent. They wanted help. They wanted support. They wanted advice. They wanted to double check decisions from a financial type perspective. So we started to look at it and go, okay, if that's the ideal and that's what those people want, that's the bits that they're prepared to pay for. So it became a case of, if we deliver and keep up to date with the financial information, that opens up so many more opportunities because we can react at that moment in time. So if you've got clients who they want some advice and guidance, and you go, okay, great, can you give me your financial records? And they haven't done bookkeeping for 3 months. You're stuck, and now you can't deliver that extra service because there's no up-to-date financial information. And so it was educating them, but most of them were happy. They wanted that service. So they were prepared to go to us and go, well, you're the expert. You just tell me what we need to do and let's get it happening. So we're able to move in that right direction. So it still is now, and it always has been, very focused around compliance, but to go, how do we make compliance a minor event? So the big events are the conversations with the clients, the producing of management reports, the conversations we have off the back of management reports. And it just so happens along the way, you go, oh, there's a VAT return that he's filing. Yeah, great, let's just file it. Oh, there's a tax return that he's doing. Yeah, that's fine. We know about the figures. Nothing's a surprise. Let's just sign it and file it. So they are not big events at all. So it was the mindset shift. And that's why I say about getting into the mind of the clients. The clients don't want to buy a tax return. The right clients for us anyway. What they want to buy is the expertise that we can then provide to them.
Brilliant. So there's a book about frictionless service, which what you just said reminds me about creating or removing as much friction as possible in the relationship, so there are no big events. So it's just part of the course, no surprises. So that's really great. And just get clarity on it. I believe that you don't take on any customers unless you do the bookkeeping. Is that right?
That's correct. Unless they're an organisation that has a trained bookkeeper, so it can't just be, it's my husband or wife or daughter or whatever the case may be. They have to be trained to be able to do that, and then they have to be willing to accept our training in order to do it our way. That rarely happens because of our target market of who we're going for. They normally don't have that. So in order to join us, just yesterday speaking to somebody, they're like, yeah, but we do it ourselves and it's okay. We just run a quick Xavier report and go, no, it's not. This is why you would outsource it to us, and this is what we deliver. And actually, it's not a choice. If you don't want to outsource it and you're not in that mindset, you're not the right client, so therefore we're not interested, no thank you. And it helps in terms of efficiencies and processes. We know exactly what's going on, and part of our thing is you don't get this thing. So we use an example of you could have hosting costs for a website, and there's so many arguments of what category that could go to, and just because the client puts it to one category doesn't mean they're wrong. But you could come in and we could do the VAT return for them and go, actually no, we're going to move that, And then if they had an outside accountant, for example, that accountant could move it, and you've got all these people moving something that's pointless. It doesn't actually make a big effect. So by us having it in-house and having one set style and one process that it follows, efficiencies are created, and actually the fees we then charge for the accounts are highly profitable because it's all been managed through the whole bookkeeping process.
Excellent, thank you. And you touched on Xavier there, which is Dext Precision, I think there is the proper name. So, and just share a little bit, because we've got some questions around different apps that you use, and I think Xavier or Dext is one of the ones that people might not have come across. How do you use that? Do you obviously you use it when a new customer or a potential client comes in? Do you use it with your current customers as well to reassure them that you're doing a good job, or what do you use it for?
Yeah, so we use it for internal quality control checks. So the clients that we've probably got close to 100 who are on a daily bookkeeping type process. And we have regular bookkeeping reviews of that to ensure quality control. And we're aiming for an 85% score on clients as a minimum. And therefore so every member of our team has scorecards, and the scorecards are what tell us for them and for us whether they are doing a good job. And one of the things that the bookkeepers are measuring is the Xavier score. And if we then see that drop below certain levels, the client managers then interact and have conversations with them to go, but why? Is this an internal thing and we've not been on top of it? Or is the client not providing information? So we use it to constantly quality check what we're doing, because so we don't, so we're pushing those tasks onto the bookkeepers, if you like, as opposed to ending up fixing a load of issues with a set of accounts and that set of accounts taking forever and eating into the profitability of it.
Excellent, thank you. And then Ali's asked a question around what makes you stand out. Do you think there's something that makes you stand out?
I think what makes us stand out, certainly some of the bits that we get as feedback, is people want to get through that door. They want to be accepted, so they know in order to get to speak to us, they've got to hit qualification criteria. So even yesterday with the proposal meeting I was having, the questions were, did we qualify yet? Do you want to work with us? So I think there's that little bit of element. There's the element of people know that we're trying to serve them, we're trying to be working for them as the client. So if you go back to previously when we were just doing the compliance type approach, most of our clients were startups. And my view is we don't make money in short term, we make money out of long-term relationships, but we could never get there because so many of them would end up failing because they couldn't really afford to pay for the right levels of support and advice. And that's not necessarily their fault, but yeah, it was just the wrong market for us. Whereas now we're getting people who come to us with frustrations and difficulties from their existing accountant, and we just happen to be saying and going, well, yeah, but we just do that as standard. That's just normal. So therefore, they're just going, oh, why haven't we found you earlier? So I think the standout is that we're not trying to sell an A to Z list of accounting services. We're selling outcomes. So I think that's what makes us stand out.
Brilliant, thank you. It always amazes me that you only have to be that little bit better, just a tiny bit better or a tiny bit different to attract people. And lots of business owners and accountants think they've got to do something remarkable to stand out, and that's not necessarily the case. So thank you for sharing that. And then lastly, on step 5, you're now going through a process of offloading more clients. And I think earlier you alluded that you're doing it a slightly different way this time to last time.
Yeah, so one of the main exercises what we do now to keep us on track. So we always produce a business plan for ourselves for the year, just something that runs over 1 or 2 pages, and we have quarterly catch-ups with the whole team regarding that business plan, just to go, we set what we want to achieve, and are we on the right track for achieving that? So one of the goals this year was that we still feel, as we've moved on, who were previously the Bs, they've been separated still. We've got new Cs and Ds, but they're just at higher levels than what they were previously. And actually, that's probably unfair. I don't think we have any Ds. So we've got nobody who we're just sacking. That just tends to happen as it go along. And so that was a case of, actually, so now we've got those, because they're longer term clients, do they really understand the values of what we do deliver? So rather than going to them and just going, we've sold you, that's it, and not having the conversations like we'd had with the doubling of your fees, we're going into them and just going, there's an invite for an opportunity. So this is how we work with our best clients, and this is what happens for them. These are the outcomes that they see. So we've got lots of data on the level of profitability that they hit, the happiness levels that they've got in their business, and just go, actually, if you want to be part of that, there is an invite to come and join that. And if you don't want to, for us, okay, we're telling them that's fine, but actually for us to signal internally to going, okay, they need to form part of that sales process, because they're not got the right signals of what we want and what we want to achieve going forward. But therefore, we're not ending up with this win or lose scenario. We win both ways. The client doesn't leave, they're happy, and they're just going, yeah, well, we're happy with everything you're doing. Okay, great. We're just labeling them to go, okay, if they're happy with everything we're doing, we don't see potential, then they're on the list to potentially move on.
So it's an invitation to step up, for want of a better phrase. And I love that terminology as well, Ian, rather than an upsell or a cross-sell or an up-deliver or any other management speak language that you want to throw in there. So it's just briefly, and there's a couple of things I want to talk about, the quarterly catch-ups for the team as well. But just briefly, is there a structure for that conversation? What's the agenda look like?
So at the moment, we've got an exercise where we're going through and we are identifying and labeling everybody so we know where do they fit. And from there, then it's going to be a structure of similar to before. It's going to be inviting them in, but the lead to that conversation is more going to be, right, these are how our best clients are achieving things. If you're interested and you want to have a discussion over that, then you can signal that and you can come forward and we can have a conversation. But one of the things that we do, so all clients who move from either internally move from a sort of compliance type focus to our outsourced finance function type focus, and for new clients coming in, we have an onboarding department. And that's roughly a 3-month process to ensure that they are following our processes exactly as they should do, and to train and teach the client to follow our rules to get the most out of us. So there's a limit to what can come in. So we might invite people, but we would say, for example, actually, we only have 5 spaces, and it is a good marketing ploy, but at the same point, it's not a trick. There are only 5 spaces. So therefore, if you don't answer now, then you will miss that boat until the next opportunity. And actually, we've been very surprised that people are willing to wait. We have roughly 20 clients on our waiting list at the moment who are outside of business. And yeah, I would never have thought people would be willing to wait. Why are we so special? Why do you want to wait for us? Just go find another accountant. But that's not what they want to do. They want to work with us. So I think, those conversations are just going to be invited in, have a bit more of an in-depth conversation with them, just to go, right, this is quite how it would work and how it would work specifically for you. And then run through proposals and see if they want to move in that direction.
So again, it's a partnership that you're having a conversation with them rather than a confrontational slanging match, for want of a better phrase, over a Zoom or wherever, which I know lots of people imagine that process would be. So I've got a question from VJ. How do you market to non-startups?
So at the moment, we don't market, and we haven't had to market since September. And actually, surprisingly, it surprised me as well that caused our best quarter ever for September through to December, because it made us focus on actually how do we serve our existing clients better. If the only way we can generate more funds is internally, how do we serve them better? And just have more conversations with people about what we do. And they're like, oh, I didn't know you did that. And you're like, okay, yeah. So maybe we could do better internally in terms of making sure people are aware. But our marketing, when it is on, our adverts, so all of it comes via Google AdWords, and it's all to a very specific website that's very much targeted towards, first of all, why we do what we do. So you may know of Simon Sinek's approach in terms of why, then how, then what. And that's what we have on there. So people who are coming onto the website, they have to connect with why we do what we do first. If they connect with that, they'll go on and they'll look about how we do it and what we do. Then they're prepared to inquire. And it's that very clear marketing process that it's people are now coming to us because they understand why we do, and they understand how we're doing it to fix those issues. So they're not coming to us to buy a set of accounts, they're coming to us because they want to relieve a headache, or the person we're talking to at the moment, they want to expand. There's a great opportunity to expand their business. But the current accountants aren't helping them and guiding them in terms of what you can do with that. Just yesterday, the conversation with them was actually they got access to probably about £2.5 million worth of funds, 2-hour conversation that unlocks that and go, actually, there is route then of which we can do that. And that could help with the next 2 to 3 years worth of plans. That for them was a great buying signal, because they were like, oh, great. All I'm being told otherwise is nothing, basically, just going, oh, you need to figure it out yourself. So yeah, it was identifying the struggles and the opportunities, which was not really within our forte. I'm going to bring in experts to fix those issues, but I was just the catalyst and the tool to unlock that. So it's identifying what people's frustrations are.
Thank you. And there's also a neat little trick, BJ, called reverse marketing, where you tell people what you don't want, and therefore by implication, if you manage to survive in business for 3 years, etc., then you naturally qualify yourself by not disqualifying yourself, if that makes any sense. So I hope that helps, VJ. Kim has asked, how does your proposals work during those type meetings? Do you do it in front of them, or do you just post it out? So this next one, and I think we've perhaps answered that, you do it with them as a consultative process rather than tell them what it is that you're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we use the gloss method as the good proposal in a proposal meeting. So we're understanding where they're trying to get to, what the problems are, and therefore how can we fix it. And if we can't, we just tell them, we go, really sorry, we feel like we potentially wasted your time. Hopefully you've got value out of the process you've done, but we're not the right fit. And yeah, as you said, with the sort of the signals for people not to buy, actually, very surprisingly, sometimes those people who are told no go and tell other people that they should work with us because they can't.
Yeah. It's the old taking something away and then wanting it more. And I've got your question, Craig. I won't ask it publicly. I'll have a chat with Ian afterwards and see what we can do. But I think there's a specific answer to your question rather than a more general question. So let's just go back to these business plans, Ian, because you alluded to sharing the business plans with your team and then having quarterly conversations about your progress towards them. So just what's in these business plans? Do you share everything, or just some things, or what do you share?
We share a lot. So staff know everything from financial perspective. They know everything down to the profitability of the business. They just don't know what we take. So, because that's personal, that's not relation to them, and obviously they don't know what individual other staff members have, but they're involved in the business and they're responsible for helping the business grow. So therefore, they need to see that that's actually happening, and if they can see that actually, they can easily forgive them at the moment. If we're offloading all these clients, their natural reaction could be, well, the business is suffering, and how are we going to cope? But actually, well, we can share with that and go, look, we have less clients, but we make more money. They feel more comfortable, they feel we're on the right path, and it accelerates all of that progress. The overall journey of where we're trying to get it towards is very personal, so it's what we can achieve, and we certainly have a goal that is never to be achieved. So our goal is that all business owners everywhere are thriving, not just surviving. Now, we can never achieve that, because obviously we can't work with every business owner everywhere, and not every business owner really wants to achieve that. But that's our goal ultimately. But certainly what we should be doing with every business that we have a touch point with, that's what we should be aiming to help and achieve. And so then the whole point is, and this works from a book called Traction, which is by a guy called Gino Wickman. So we run our whole business based on the EOS model, which is in Traction. And the point is that these quarterly meetings set up what are the biggest blockages that are going to stop us getting towards those long-term goals. And rather than just reacting to the symptoms that get presented to us, and you just react day by day, you have to stop and go, are we fixing the underlying issue of what's there? And that's the big fix. And then everybody gets allocated one of these, they're called rocks. And that they have to fix that in their quarter, and they update that on their scorecard every week to say whether it's on track or off track to be fixed. So therefore, everybody has an involvement in the development and growth of the business, and it's given us clarity and moved wrong fit stuff on as well. So we have a very good and very strong culture, and we actually recruit based on culture and not on skills.
Excellent. So you share the financials up to the point of the profit, basically, but not what you draw. And then any other numbers that go to the team, and then those rocks are set with the team, and at the quarterly meetings you and the team report back on your rock progress, and then what needs to happen in the next quarter. Is that that's my mental summary of what you've just said, Ian? Is that a fair description?
Yeah. There's just everybody has a one-to-one once a week, so in that one-to-one they share their key numbers for their job, but also they share whether their rock is on or off target. If they feel like they're not going to achieve it, you get to know week 3, for example, and then we can interact and go, okay, that's one of the biggest things that we have to fix this quarter. So how are we going to make that happen?
Excellent. And sharing the profit obviously is a sensitive figure for lots of people. And I can see by the look on your face that's not a challenge that you've got. But mentally, how did you get over that? Did you have any fears around it, any reservations around it? And then when you actually did it, how was it received?
So yes, there were some fears and some sort of approaches that was like, well, is this the right thing to do? It still presents challenges on occasions, but actually we think those challenges are because there's people who aren't yet an absolute 100% culture fit. So actually it's more one person than anything else. But the real thing is we in our industry, what we have is we have very good educated people to understand sets of accounts. They understand the point that a business is there to make money, whereas that's not the case in all businesses. And therefore, it gives them peace of mind. They know the point is to make money, and therefore, actually, if we're making more money than what we have done previously, you get this natural uplift from everybody, and they feel confident, and they feel like we're building an efficient machine that works and that they are part of, and they feel like they belong. That they're part of the journey, moving in the right direction, and they feel like they're part of the company. They're part of the family of the company. So yeah, it's scary, but overall it has a positive effect.
Yeah, and my experience is it's no big deal, because the team members, they're working with everybody else's numbers day in, day out, so they're just numbers. They don't equate it to. So the industry that we're in makes it really easy. And then there's this level which you've alluded to, and I'll use it's the trust. So I trust my team to accept and understand those numbers, and then work with those numbers. And if I don't trust them enough to give them the numbers, then what's that saying about me and how they might react or not, etc., etc. But I understand that sometimes there are some bad numbers, and then that creates some insecurities and stuff like that. So there's a yin and a yang to it. But I certainly never regretted sharing my. And again, it goes back to this pricing conversation. I've never known anybody to do it and regret doing it afterwards. And the same with sharing the numbers. So Craig's just asked another question. Did he have any people leave because they felt they weren't receiving their share of the profit?
No. We had a period of time before we made this transition where we felt possibly our staff were a little bit underpaid, but we just shared that with them and just said, look, we feel you're underpaid. This is the journey we're going on. We felt the reasons that they're working for us wasn't necessarily for that pay. There was a bigger thing than that. It's the environment, the culture, and they felt like they belong. So with them to go, look, if you work through us with this transition period, you will get rewarded the other side. But everybody's got to come together, and we are in that. We're being underpaid. I could go and earn more by being employed, but we have to go through this journey and get the other side. With that other side, we stick to our word. People get rewarded for it, and people are paid above market rate salaries. The only thing that has caused somebody to leave is that there's a book that goes in the Traction series called "What the Heck is EOS?" And it's a book you give to your staff, and they get to understand it. And we were due to have a conversation with a member of our team we felt was struggling and didn't fit. They read the book and they left that week because they were just said that's not it. That's not what I'm about. That's not the journey for me. And they could go somewhere else, and they're highly valuable somewhere else, and they can do that. And they can really deliver, a great service to other people there. But for us, if they weren't prepared to be on that journey, then that's fine. But it's not the right place to be.
Yeah, the sooner you find that out. It's a conversation that I have very often about timesheets. When firms get rid of timesheets, it's like, well, will people leave? Well, I do know people that leave because they was very good at producing a job at 90% of budget, and all of a sudden the budgets have disappeared and they've got no. They say just do it as fast as you can. Yeah, but I know it should take me 9 hours. Well, and they just can't mentally. They like the formality of it. So, but it's always better to have those people out and somewhere where they're comfortable working for somebody that's comfortable working like that, rather than not. Sorry, someone just kicked off outside my window. I don't know what I don't know what that was. Kids probably. So we've got. I'm very respectful of your time, Ian. We've got 5 minutes. So if anybody's got any questions that they want to ask, please pop them in the Q&A box. I've got some questions that were submitted before the conversation that I would like to just touch on out. So Elliot asked, how often do you reconcile your clients' bank accounts? And how do you account for the VAT on bank transactions with no receipts? So we'll start with the first question. How often do you reconcile the bank accounts? Is it a daily job, a weekly job, a monthly job?
So a daily job. Clients told that it would be updated weekly, but where possible, we will do it daily. But that gives us some flexibility if there are absences or whatever. We've got some flexibility at those times, but 99% of the time it's done daily.
Okay, and at that point when you're doing it daily, if there's any missing information, how do you deal with that missing information?
Yeah, so missing information and leads into the other part of the question as well. They sort of filter into weekly queries that get sent out. So we will send out queries usually via email, but if we haven't had decent responses for 2 weeks, we will turn that into a phone interaction. And when so actually to go back with the emails, often those emails go out with Loom videos as well, so that there's something for the client. They've got multiple ways that they can interact. But yeah, then it turns into a phone conversation where we then contact them and just go, look, at the moment, you're not getting the best value you can from us because that financial information isn't up to date. What's stopping you achieving it? So we like to just label the situation quite quickly.
Brilliant, thank you. And then Nick's asked, and this is a general question, and I'll fire it at you. And if you think of the first ones that come into your head, what software do you use? So we've touched on Go Proposal, Xavier. We just touched on Loom for videos. What else do you use?
Oh God, we've got loads. So the main approach is zero receipt bank. So everybody has to use zero receipt bank. We don't take anything else. It's not optional. And again, that's because of efficiencies of how we have set process of what we can follow and what we can do. Practice management wise, we are Accountancy manager, but we're just switching to Carbon because it fits with our processes a whole lot better. And we've had a few issues related with Accountancy manager, but I must hasten to add that I think we're unusual. Lots of people seem to love it and seem to get great value out of it, but it's just not worked for us. What else we use? We use Sift for sort of our management reports and things. So we keep a lot of our management reports very simple and straightforward to give clients hard headline information, and then revert to conversations over that information. So we use that to produce quick sort of reports that we can get information out to them with. Obviously, we've said about Xavier. It's probably the main majority of the main focus that we're on.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We've probably got lots of others behind the scenes that we're.
Yeah, they don't instantly spring to mind, but it's always the ones that instantly spring to mind that are the important ones for me. And Neil's asked, do your clients upload bills directly to Receipt Bank and then you do the magic, or do they send them to you and then you upload them for them?
They can send them to us, but we discourage it. We try and encourage them that the process and habit they need to get into is as emails arrive, they're forwarded to Receipt Bank, and as they are spending something, they're taking photos at that moment in time, because then it's more live, and therefore we can do things every day, as opposed to, oh yeah, if I can send it now, I'll send it at the end of the week. Now we're on to weekly bookkeeping, and for us now we're behind.
Okay, brilliant. And then Ryan's asked, what level of Receipt Bank package do you have? Yeah, top, middle, or bottom?
Yeah, top. I don't know what they're called, but the top one.
Yeah, yes, the big one. And do you use the message feature against individual submissions? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. So it could. But sometimes when some of the questions come through on certain things, I wonder whether they're like secret code message type things that are going to make me look silly when I read them out. But good, I'm pleased I was safe on that one. So just finally, I'm conscious we're a minute to go, Ian. It's been a fantastic conversation for me. As I said at the beginning, I'd learned something or discovered something or relearned something at the beginning of the conversation. So thank you very much for contributing. If anybody's watching and thinking about what should I do first, I'm struggling. I'm working the 60, 70, 80 hours a week. I've got team that are not pulling their weight, etc., etc. With the benefit of hindsight, what would be the one thing that you would spend your time on at the moment or focus on at the moment?
I think my first actual focus would be on the team, creating a true culture. So the exercise we went through was really understanding the people around me, my friends and family, what are the real things that I value and what would I be telling them as the best ways to act. That became our culture, and that's who we want to surround us with, because those people are trustworthy to me because they act and display all the characteristics that I think are normal. So that would be my first approach, because if you've got people around you that you implicitly trust, everything else is great. So when they're challenging you back with going, is that the right decision? You know that they're doing it from a place of love and they're doing it for the right reasons, not that they're just trying to be obstructive. So that would be my first thing, is get that team in place and a culture.
Brilliant. Thank you. We're getting lots of thank yous, Ian, in the chat box. Very useful. Gold dust. Great conversation, great webinar. So you've made or helped lots of people today, Ian. So thank you very much for coming along and for sharing. It's been really, really insightful, as I say, for me as well. So thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for everybody that's come along and asked questions and contributed. As I said at the beginning, these conversations are increased, the productivity and the value of them are increased massively by the conversations that come in. Alan said thank you. VJ said thank you. Jeff's off. Thank you for the share. Kim has and Krista and everybody. So that just leaves me to say thank you very much, Ian, and a virtual round of applause for Ian. And to everybody that's here, we've got some more demonstrations and some webinars coming up next week. And if you need an invitation, then just please let me know or pop into the Facebook group and we will have a look. And I will let you go and get you a Levensies cup of coffee and a biscuit and a brownie or whatever it is. So thank you very much, Ian, and I will see you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Bye-bye, mate. Thank you for watching that great video with Ian Morgan. As always, please remember to subscribe to the channel so you get notified the next time we upload some great content. Make sure you hit the thumb on the like button in order to register your approval for Ian and the contribution that he has made to the community. And please feel free to add any comments or questions that you would like us to answer as a result of watching that video. On your screen, you should be able to see 2 videos either side and a subscribe button for our suggestions as to what you should watch next.